How was the poker game? Denny asked as he sat across from Saelah while they waited for their food. They were having lunch before going to the grocery store. It was fun. They taught me the basics, but I opted not to play. I spent the game rotating whose lap I was sitting on, and honestly, that was better than playing. She smirked and Denny chuckled. You met some of their friends. How did they seem? Most of them were nice, but there was one. I learned she liked Satoru and Suguru, and I felt like she was trying to subtly stir up trouble. I can't really say I blame her. I've seen the three of them, and anyone with eyes would be attracted. What did she do? She supplied information that wasn't hers to give. It felt like she was trying to start a fight between myself and Suguru, but she didn't get what she wanted. If she likes them, then she was probably jealous, especially if they've never given her the time of day. Denny paused. Or have they? I don't think so. I didn't ask, and I know they'd tell me if they had. She took a drink from her glass. How are things going between you and Sukuna? I think his favorite pastime is trying to get a rise out of me, but they're good. Speaking of him, my heat is coming up at the beginning of November, and he's going to help me through it, but he trailed off. But his nephew lives with him, and you'd feel more comfortable in your nest, Saelah supplied. Yeah, but I don't want you to be uncomfortable. Don't worry about it. I'll ask one of my alphas if I can stay with them while you're in heat. I'm sure none of them would mind, and I'll make sure there's plenty of food in the fridge when you go into preheat, so all Sukuna has to worry about is nodding and feeding you. She had no issue giving Denny the apartment for his heat. He'd gotten everything she'd needed for her when she'd gone into her impromptu heat, and what were friends for? She wanted his heat to go as smoothly as hers had. It was her friend's first time having a partner for his heat in a while. Their food arrived, and they discussed the day trip they would take after Denny's heat. Her friend was taking a few extra days off once it was over, and thought they might as well take advantage of it since they hadn't traveled together since moving to Tokyo. Do you work on Halloween, Denny? Saelah asked when they were on the sidewalk headed to the store. I don't. We can spend our first Halloween having dinner and taking in everyone's costumes. Saelah knew they didn't celebrate the holiday the same way it was in the States, but they did dress up, and she was excited to see that. She might even dress up herself. Should we go costume shopping? She asked. That's a good idea. You think we could get the four of them to go with us and rope them into costumes too? Denny inquired. I think so. I know you work the next 2 days, so do you want to go on your next off day? Yeah, the sooner the better. That way we have time to find what we want. Saelah nodded in agreement. Halloween was in 2 weeks, and she knew how things went when you shopped at the last minute. They did their grocery shopping and headed back to their apartment. When they finished putting everything away, she pulled her phone out and brought up the calendar. What day exactly are you expected to start your heat? She asked Denny as they went into the living room. She always had a roundabout idea of when her friend's heat would start, but Denny always knew the exact date. It came like clockwork and didn't deviate, so it was easy for him to take the time off. She wanted to put it in her calendar to ensure she picked up everything he needed beforehand. November 3rd, Denny replied. Looking at her calendar, she found he would go into heat the day before Suguru's rep would start. She'd asked him before they dropped her off after poker night when it was, so she could let her clients know ahead of time that while she would still be working, her response times might be a little longer than they were used to. Since she planned on staying with him at his apartment, the timing worked out. She made a mental note to make a list of easy-to-eat and quick-to-cook foods for both Denny and Suguru. She wasn't sure how lucid her boyfriend would be in his rut, and since she'd never spent one with anyone, hell, since her surprise heat was her first time spending a cycle with someone, she didn't know what to expect, but she wanted to be prepared. Saelah put her phone away, and Denny grabbed her laptop off the table where she left it the night before and passed it to her. Let's look at some costume ideas, he suggested. For the next hour and a half, they browsed costumes. The time was spent primarily on Denny trying to find the perfect costume. Saelah knew she wanted to be one of 2 characters, and once she decided on which costume she liked more, they moved on to looking for Denny. While they had been, she came across options for each of her alphas. She thought they would be perfect, and figured with a little persuasion, she could get them to agree to wear them. When Denny showed Saelah the costume he thought Sukuna should wear, she couldn't help but snort. You think he'll wear that? I think so. He'd look good in it. Saelah started. You just want to see that man with his chest out, she finished with a sly grin. I won't deny it. It'll be great eye candy all night. You've seen him naked, she reminded. And what a wonderful sight that was, Denny replied with a smirk. Saelah shook her head with a laugh as she picked up her phone to text her alphas. Denny and I plan on dressing up for Halloween. Do you want to join us? That sounds like fun, pretty. What costume did you choose? I'll look good in any costume. Be ready to be amazed. You'll get to see the costume when I wear it, and I'm sure you do, Satoru. Would you be opposed to letting me choose them for you? Not at all. Knock yourself out, little alpha. I can't wait to see what you choose. Send me your measurements. I want it to be a surprise. She received affirmative responses and sent the emoji with heart eyes, then put her phone aside, turning her attention to Denny. My alphas are on board with costumes, and they agreed to let me choose them. Once you ask Sukuna, we'll be good to go. I'll ask him tonight. Speaking of your alphas, Denny nodded towards her wrists. Your courting marks are starting to fade. She glanced at them. Yeah, it's been over 3 months. I'll bring it up to them later. Since we'll all be together for Halloween, they can refresh them then. She didn't have any more group dates planned with him until then. While she had individual ones, she would prefer to have them done at the same time, the same way they had been when they'd given them to her. Speaking of courting marks, is that something you want? Something you plan on pursuing with Sukuna? Eventually, to be honest, Sukuna and I were just having a bit of fun. I wasn't necessarily looking for something serious, but now I can see us building something. If I couldn't, I wouldn't have asked him to help me through my heat. Saelah smiled at her friend. Looks like we're both getting our much-deserved romances. And then some, Denny added. Let's finish the drama we started the other day, he suggested, picking up the remote, and Saelah nodded in agreement, moving her laptop aside and preparing to see if the predictions they made during the last episode were correct. Satoru listened to his mother fill him in on every minute of what had happened since the last time he'd spoken to her. She spoke excitedly and animatedly about it. It was the same tactic his parents always used. His mother would talk him half to death and lower his guard, and then his father would swoop in and ask when he was going to take his rightful place at the company. They'd had the conversation so many times that Satoru could predict what the older alpha would say word for word. There was a lull from his mother, and he assumed that was his father's cue to get on the phone and start their usual conversation. However, that was not what happened. We haven't seen you in some time. When are you coming for a visit? His mother asked. I'll see you for the Christmas holiday, Satoru replied. He hadn't visited his family home for several months. His mother hummed in acknowledgement. Oh, I ran into Miyu last week. Did Kento tell you? Satoru wanted to ask why Kento would have told him that their mothers ran into one another. He also doubted his friend knew because while Kento and his mother were close, she didn't give him nearly as many details of their time spent apart as Satoru's mother did. He didn't, Satoru answered. Was it a pleasant run-in? He knew it was. All three families had gotten along from the moment they'd met because of their sons, but he'd asked because if he could keep her talking, then the probability of his father taking over the conversation was low. It was. We ended up having lunch together. Since you're coming for the Christmas holiday, I think I'll invite the Nanamis in the ghettos. Bring Kento and Suguru with you, his mother instructed. It should be a fun time. Yes, the 6 of you ganging up on us about settling down. That sounds like my idea of a terrific time, he replied sarcastically. Well, since you brought it up, when are you going to settle down? You aren't getting any younger, and neither are your father and I. We'd like grandchildren soon. Satoru groaned before he could stop himself. What's the rush? I have time. He decided not to tell his mother just yet that he was courting someone, or that he was doing so with his 2 best friends. He made the mistake of telling his parents the first time it happened, and they looked at him like he'd lost his mind for essentially competing for someone's attention, especially with 2 people he was close to. Satoru could only imagine what they would think when they found out this time he wasn't competing. The goal was to welcome Saelah into their pack, to form a quad of sorts since it would be a bit different from others, whereas in most quads all members were involved with one another and they were primarily made up of an alpha, beta, and 2 omegas. Theirs would not be. However, Satoru supposed he wouldn't be able to put off telling his parents for long, especially since visiting them meant they might see the courting mark on his wrist. He figured there was no better time than the Christmas holiday. If his mother wanted the 3 families to get together, then they could tell them all at the same time. If they were lucky, maybe they would be able to get Saelah to agree to visit with them. You'll be 30 in 2 months, his mother reminded, as if he'd forgotten his own birthday. And that's still 2 years younger than when you had me, he countered. Perhaps, but your father and I had been mated for years beforehand. You're falling behind, son. Satoru refrained from groaning again. New subject, please. Fine, she replied, changing the subject. They spoke for another half hour before his mother suggested he call and speak to his father soon, since he wasn't home. Satoru had figured he wasn't since he hadn't gotten on the phone yet. He agreed he would before the 2 ended the call and he tossed his phone aside. He ran his thumb over the fading courting mark, trying to figure out the best time to extend the invitation for the holiday at his family home to Saelah, but he knew he needed to speak to Suguru and Kento first. He could wait until they saw one another since they got together at least once a week, but there was no time like the present. With a sigh, he picked his phone back up and video called the 2 of them. What's up, Satoru? Suguru answered first. I just got off the phone with my mother, and I need to speak to you and Kento about something she brought up. As if his name was a summons instead of the initial call, Kento joined the call, popping up on his screen. Hey, he greeted. I was with a serious face, Satoru, the youngest alpha asked. I was on the phone with my mom, and she brought up my settling down. The other 2 nodded in understanding. Satoru knew he wasn't the only one who got questioned about settling down when speaking to a parent. What did you tell her? Kento asked. That I had time and not to rush me, but I want to run something by you. My mother plans on inviting your families to the house for Christmas, and she told me to bring the 2 of you along. And you want to bring Saelah, Suguru said. I do. If everyone is going to be there, then we might as well introduce Saelah, let them know we plan on mating her, and get the questions out of the way. As long as she's okay with it, I don't have a problem with doing that, Kento replied. Suguru. It's fine with me, but do you think it's too soon? Suguru asked. By the time Christmas comes, we'll have been courting her for almost 6 months and dating 8. I think it's the perfect time, Satoru responded. In his mind, they could introduce her tomorrow, and it would be the perfect time. He'd thought it before, but courting Saelah felt different from the previous times. He caught himself rubbing the fading courting mark over the last couple of weeks, and the only thing he could think was that he didn't want to refresh them. Satoru instead wanted to put a mating mark on her, to have her put one on him, but he was trying to be patient. Okay, then we'll ask her, and if she agrees, that's what we'll do, Suguru responded. We can ask her about it when we go out for Halloween. It would be best to discuss it in person, Kento suggested. He and Suguru agreed, and they spoke for a few more minutes before ending the call. Saelah had to say that she wanted to dress up for Halloween, but not what she wanted to do beyond that. Satoru knew his club would be filled with people in costumes. They'd done a theme night for the past few years, and it was always a hit. He figured they could end their night there.